Today, we're going to be discussing how a kingdom-minded entrepreneur can get invested into a missions project and how he can get his whole team involved with it. The first thing we want to cover is finding the project.
Once you get to the top, you want to bring other people with you.
Yes.
And it was so frustrating figuring out, how can I do that? You can't just tell somebody, hey, come along with me, because they've got to have a reason to do it.
The second thing is, how do you fund the project? The third thing is, bring the team around the project to visit it.
What I found is we come with this 2030 and we share it with all of our employees. This is what we do. You can come alongside of us. There's, three types of people. You can have nothing to do with it, and that is what it is. Two is, you can play part of it financially, or you can just share the word, whatever it is.
And the fourth thing is, evaluate the fruit of the work that you've been doing now. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Heirs, where faith meets business, inspiring the kingdom-minded entrepreneur. Today, I've got the great privilege of interviewing Stuart and Lisa Lynn. With the Lynn Group, they are a windstorm and structural civil engineer, specializing in private and public residential and commercial infrastructure development projects in the Texas Gulf Coast. Welcome, guys. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, James. It's an honor and a privilege to be here and spend some time with you.
I appreciate that. It's been, we've known each other now for, I think we've been doing, I suppose my company's been doing business with you for over 10 years.
Yeah, probably about 13 or so.
Nearly 13 years.
10 or 11.
Yeah, that's right. So, which is funny because we moved here in 2011 to Corpus Christi, and one of the first things that we needed to find as a contractor was a good windstorm engineer. And that was that's how we found you guys. And you were operating out of Rockport at the time. You're primarily based in what town?
Bay City is our home office.
Okay, Bay City's home office. At this point, you're in how many cities?
We're in Bay City, Rockport, Corpus, Edna, and then we have an office in Grapevine.
Okay, so that's five areas of saturation, which is well done. The reason why I've got Stuart and Lisa here is I was inspired by their story when I met you. I think for the first time we met in 2018 or 2019 timeframe, and you shared with me your big heart for missions, and not only your heart for missions personally, but corporately, and how you utilize your company's platform to earn money, provide a great service, get monetized for that, and with those profits, you use that money to fund and advance the good news. Right? And so as soon as I heard that, and then you visited and you came to my showroom, you came to my office, you're like, man, I like what this guy's doing. I was like, oh, this is cool. I went home, I told Megan how excited I was. I said, I met Stuart Lynn, and you wouldn't believe it. This guy's got a heart for missions. He loves God, and he's an excellent businessman. And so to me, that was it was very encouraging, because sometimes it feels like there's not many people that have that type of vision. And you do. So I'm grateful for that, for both of you, for being here. You guys have been married for 24 years. Yep. You have 8 children and you have 9 grandchildren, which is awesome. So I love that. So today, what we want to talk about is how a kingdom-minded entrepreneur can get his company invested into a mission project, and that would include his members of the team. And so my hope today is that our takeaway is that companies, after they hear you tell your stories of how you started and how you got into this BHAG, which we'll explain here in a minute and what that is, but to how to find a project that your company can invest in, how to fund that project, what that looks like, visiting the project for team building, actually taking your team there, maybe overseas or to another area of the country or the state. And what does that look like over the years? What's the fruit from that experience? So, awesome. Are you ready to get into it?
I am ready.
All right, great. So, tell me a little bit about how you started, your background. You guys got married, and were you already an engineer when you guys got married, or what's your background story?
Yeah, so I started, grew up in a small town called Blessing. A couple hours here from the Corpus area.
Okay.
And grew up there. My dad was a minister and was a Baptist preacher, so we traveled, every 2 to 3 years. It seemed like we were moving around. But graduated from high school there in the Blessing area. Went to college. Did what most kids want to do for their parents, make them proud. Do it. Dad wanted to be an engineer, and then he ended up getting in the ministry. So I wanted to be an engineer to kind of make Dad proud, and get a degree, get a good job, have a wife and family, live happily ever after. That was kind of that's the American dream, right?
So it is the American dream.
So we did all that. I got my engineering degree, got married, had wonderful kids, and was doing everything except for the happily ever after. Was broke as a joke, could not pay my bills. My parents were having to help with during Christmas time, buying presents for the kids. Had to keep the lights on from time to time, and was a rough time. So I'm going back and forth to work. And I'm coming home one day and I'm having this conversation with God and telling him, as a kid, I wanted to do the inverse of a tithe 1 year. I wanted to make $1 million, give away 90% and live off 10%, which is $100,000. And at that time, I hung around a bunch of preachers' kids and pastors, and nobody I knew made $100,000.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that, were you working at the time? Did you find a job? Were you gainfully employed yet as an engineer?
Yes, as an engineer.
Okay,
yes.
You were, but still, just weren't making ends meet.
Right? That's right.
So I thought when you come out of college and you have an engineering degree, you just make $100,000.
Nope.
No.
Oh, it doesn't work that way. Okay. So, but you made a point. You said you wanted to do big things with God, right? That was in your heart, planted as a child, right? As a young man. And now you're like, okay, I'm married. I've got the beautiful wife. I've got the great kids. I've got the job, but we're not making it. Right. So how did that conversation go again? Because you said it a little fast. I want to make sure everybody hears. How did you reason that with God? What did you say to God?
I'm coming home. I can still vividly remember that I'm coming home, and I'm driving around and driving to the house and can't pay my bills. And I'm telling God, you did not uphold your end of the agreement. I wanted to make $1 million. You're going to help me make that. I'm going to give away 90% of it and live off $100,000, and I'll be as happy as I'll get out because I wasn't nowhere near $100,000.
Yes.
So having this conversation back and forth, and he's like, so in other words, I'm supposed to help you make $1 million. I was like, yeah, God, you're the one that put that in me. I was a kid. How would I know to want to make $1 million as an 8 or 9-year-old kid?
Yeah.
And as clear as can be, and every time I tell the story, I get chills, but as clear, as audible as it could be, it's like, how am I going to help you make $1 million and you give me 90% when right now you won't even give me 10% and you're broke?
Wow.
And
okay, so you're identifying, and what you heard him say back was, you're broke. Whatever cash you do have, of that cash, that 10%, we're talking about the 10% is the tithe, right?
Right.
You're not even sowing that in at this time.
Right. That's right.
Right? Which is a faith thing. I mean, it's a full faith transaction, right? We're believing that if we give in this 10% that's ours, technically it's ours, right? In our mind, it's our money.
Right.
We know it's not our money, but in our mind, it's our fleshly mind, it's our money. And then from there, you begin a faith process. Lisa, were you on board with that? Like, why are you giving this money away? What are you doing? We need the money. Like, where does that transaction happen?
Yes, well, I mean, when he told me that he had that conversation with God, and then he said, so every week we're going to make a check for $62.50.
Come on.
It's like, okay, if that's what we have to do. So, yes, I was on board.
So trusting.
Yes.
Trusting. That's big. Because it's hard to dream big with God if it's just one of you.
That's right.
You both have got to dream together, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And looking back, it was such a platform because, again, faithful with the little things, you'll be made ruler of much. And so it made perfect sense once I had that, realization. It was like, how is he going to bless me with much more when I won't even give 10% of $625? I mean, I wouldn't even do that, but how in the world? And then to build it, just made such a big foundation. And then having a wife supporting that, because I think there's so many in the kingdom, and as you grow your business, everyone sees the CEO and the one that's getting all the accolades and all that stuff, and then behind the scenes, truly having a wife that supports you and is literally on board, and just her number one mission is to help me succeed. It's
true, because you're in it together.
Yes.
I mean, when you sign a personal guarantee, Lisa's right there. She's signing the guarantee with you.
Exactly.
I don't know how
She
many.
knows all about
I don't know
that.
how many times Megan has sat at the table.
What am I signing?
And she's like, "What exactly am I signing?" I said, "Well, you remember we talked about this?" She goes, "I see both of our names." You said, "You better not screw this up." I said, "Baby, I won't screw it up, baby. I won't." And that, she's joking, but she's serious at the same time. Look, we're in this together, and don't you forget it. We're in this together. So if we lose together. If we win together. Yeah. And it's a great principle for married entrepreneurs to know that we're in this together, right? And to serve God together is, well, you both got to be dreaming with God. You got to be hearing from God, right? Mm-hmm. So from there, You had a fresh resolve. How long from that moment, how many years from that moment of being faithful, the 6250, right now I got 6250 in my brain. It's a great number. 6250 of being faithful. How many years before you started to see God expand you exponentially?
Yes, it's kind of the old adage, when the people's ready, the teacher arrives. So I made that commitment, did that for several months. I was still broke as a joke. I still couldn't really pay the $62.50. Right. I did it, and I'm looking online for ways to make extra money, ways to be in business. I had this dream. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Always wanted to, and I knew that was the best way to make a difference. So I go online. I find another one of these things where my wife was 100% supportive and literally had no idea what I was telling her. But I found this seminar that was in Atlanta, Georgia, on January 26, 27, something like that. And it was a personal development seminar, but I could tell, I just knew it had a spiritual component to it. And I knew that there was something out there. And if God wants to bless me, I've got to do my part to be blessed. And so it was around January. So again, broke, having 8 kids. One good thing about after the first of the year is tax season's coming up.
That's right.
So
tax return.
That was the one time we had
child tax credits.
That's right.
We have 5 kids, so we know all about that.
And we had plenty of tax credit coming up. So I told her, I said, baby, there's a seminar that I want to go to. I didn't know anybody that been. I mean, it was crazy thinking about it. I mean, I had no idea what it was or anything.
This wasn't on the internet, was it?
It was on the internet. I mean, that's how I Googled it and found it.
Okay,
and
then,
so
it was Googled. Okay.
Yeah, and then so I remember that night I went home. I said, babe, I want to go to the seminar. And she said, baby, everything you do is for me and the kids. I believe in you. Go do it.
What year was this?
That was in 2007. January 2007.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
So then that was a few months after I had this revelation with God, went to that seminar. And even then, I learned a lot of skills. I learned tons of personal development type stuff, forgiveness, different things that truly help your business.
Was it a Christian seminar? Christian business seminar?
It was, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a business seminar done by Christians.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I like it. Okay.
And just learned so many things. And then again, being faithful to little things. I didn't come out of that seminar and all of a sudden became a millionaire.
No, right.
I was still another 11 months later.
That's a great seminar. There's a lot of those seminars out there that promise that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I don't trust those seminars.
And I was still, again, my main bread and butter now is windstorm, but you don't go to school to be a windstorm engineer. No, I was a civil engineer, just doing civil work. And our house had burned about a year before all that happened. We're trying to rebuild it. I learned some of these skills, how to honor people, how to have conversations with people and not make it all about me.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm having this conversation with the state of Texas, telling them I'm rebuilding this house. I have literally no money. What can I do to get this windstorm certified? And the lady's like, man, I've been talking to you for 5 minutes. I feel like I've known you forever. You're an engineer. Just fill out this form. It'll put you, they'll make you a windstorm engineer. You can do your own house and save you some money.
Wow.
Like, that sounds great. So I did that.
That's awesome.
I did that. And not knowing that put me on the state of Texas windstorm website to do windstorm engineering. So I started getting phone calls.
God is so good.
Yep. So I go to my boss at the time, which now I own his company, but my boss at the time, John D. Mercer Associates. John said, John, we can make some extra money. We'll split the profits. We'll do whatever. Wanted to honor him and that.
Yes.
And he's like, man, Stuart, I'm getting older. I don't want any part of that. So a few months after that, I literally started the windstorm engineering business on my own. So I would have never been able to connect the dots from the conversation I had with God to go into the seminar. But again, faithful to little things.
Yes.
You don't realize the journey until after you're already back looking at it. When you're in the moment, you're just being faithful.
You have no idea.
You have no idea. That's right. It's much, much easier after the fact. And so many people are looking for, what does success look like? I want ABC. You can't see the ABC until you're already at XYZ looking back.
Yes, that's right. Hindsight 2020. Wow. That's so powerful.
So that's what put me in business. That's what put me in Rockport. That's what led us to meet each other, and that's what got us to this point right here.
Come on, I love this.
It all works out.
Faithful with a little bit. You some people say. I mean, I've even looked at seminars and things. Like, wow, look, I got 5 kids at home. I can't just leave Megan and go be gone for 3 days and go to a seminar. Now I've done it, but it was like for me, I felt a little guilty. But she was like, no, go get it, go after it. This is what you're working towards, right? And from that, I made a ton of connections. To your point. I'm like, you meet people, you see other people doing it. You're like, well, if that guy can do it, God, you're blessing him. I know you love me too. Why can't you bless me too, right? Sure. But to your point again, it's just being that faithful diligence, right?
I've been to that seminar over 100 times, and she blessed me every single time. That's how I met some of my best friends. One of my business partners in our big development project, I met him there. So
I love
that's just how it all works out.
This is it. Now that's God connecting God's people together. He's a connecting God. He loves to connect people. So from 2007 You get started. 2008, you launch.
That's when I did I had the Bay City office in 2008.
Okay.
Being faithful, I still did that 2 years. First year only grossed 90,000. And I still having a couple of small employees.
Yes.
The next year is 270,000, and then that was 2010. 2 years later,
Yes.
when I bought the Rockport office.
That's right.
And that's what 3X did, and then from there we broke $1 million. We've been going strong ever since.
So you broke $1 million what year first? 10?
3.5 years. So it was 90. Yeah, 2010 is when I first year with it was a half year because I bought it in the middle of the year. We did 770,000.
Yeah. And
then the next year we broke $1 million and just. Took
you never
off
look
from
back.
there.
I remember I broke $1 million in 2017, and that was like, I can't believe I just did that. It was so cool. And it's funny, I did it the whole year. Obviously, you don't do it in one day.
Right.
He did it the whole year, and that year was wild, and it was awesome. It was wonderful, and it was like, but I can't believe that was like the unreachable. Only the really successful people hit $1 million, right? And to do that, and to your point, you haven't looked back. I haven't looked back. Every year we just continue to do it or double it, and we just keep growing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But it's being faithful. It's sewing back in. Yeah. You made a point about when you give, you had said it like this: when you give, when you don't have it, then you will give when you do have it.
That's right.
Right? And so that, again, just kind of breaking that down, if you're not willing to sow into the kingdom of God, and you say, what do you mean sow into the kingdom of God? If you're not willing to tithe, if you're not willing to give an offering, you're not willing to take a portion of the funds that you've worked towards earning and giving it back over in faith to care for the least of these, right? Care for the community, the community of believers. Well, then you're not investing with God.
That's right.
Then you won't see a return. The law of reciprocity. You reap what you sow. So if you're not sowing in, you won't receive back, right?
That's right.
And business owners have we sit in a very, especially kingdom-minded business owners, we sit in a great position where the wealth of the wicked is transferred over to the righteous through transactions, business transactions. Yeah. And I don't mean that in any negative form, but that's what the Bible says. The Bible says that. And so by faith, I'm going to provide really, really great services to all people. I'm going to treat people fairly and treat them with respect and honor them. And I'm going to receive those funds that we agreed upon through contract. And I'm going to receive the funds, and you're going to receive the service, and we're going to feel like we accomplished a great thing there. And with those funds, I'm going to care for my family. I'm going to sow into my local church, and then I'm from beyond there. Sky's the limit with what God wants to do.
That's right.
How do we find a project? So if there's people listening right now, and you had shared in 2018. I want to share something here. Maybe you can expound upon it. The BHAG, the Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal, which came from Vern Harnish in his book of Scaling Up. You came up with a mission for your corporation, for your company, and by now you have 5 locations, right? And so it wasn't just for you and your family. It wasn't just for you and Lisa and your kids and your grandkids to take part in the blessing. You invited your company in. I say invited because I'm sure it wasn't mandatory, but it was an invitation to invest with God.
Right.
I mean, that's so powerful, right? Can you share that with me?
Sure.
Of what that is and what was, why do it, and what's and that I know it led into a ton of more opportunities. Right. So share the BHAG with me.
So what I did after being in business for 4 or 5 years and having some success, when you're broke as a joke and you have no money, once you can make about $100,000, everything else is just somewhat empty.
Yes.
And I was experiencing all these results and transformation on my personal life, my spiritual life with Lisa and the kids. And I wanted everyone to experience that. It's just kind of entrepreneurial. You want to share. Once you get to the top, you want to bring other people with you.
Yes.
And it was so frustrating figuring out, how can I do that? You can't just tell somebody, hey, come along with me, because they've got to have a reason to do it.
Yes, that's
right. And unfortunately, in the business world, it's easy. Once you start having some level of success, everyone else either has to say, well, I've got to do something to get there, or he just got there because he was lucky, because you got to have this.
That's right.
So in their mind, it was my job not to just say, oh, well, then y'all need to figure this out. My mind is, how can I help them come alongside me? So that's where that BHAG came. I said,
and there's freedom, and there's freedom in that.
That's right. That's right.
And you guys experience freedom. You say, well, they have financial freedom, but it's more than just financial freedom. They're free.
Right. That's right.
There's no chains are on them, right?
Yep. And I knew if I could get other people involved in this, they would it would change their heart, change their mind, change their perspective, and it truly would be transformational. So I can't just say, hey, help me make $1 million. That's empty. That's dumb.
That's right.
And so this BHAG was, we call it Vision 2030. So it was in 2018. So we had 12 years to get there. And it's kind of a little bit of a play on numbers, but we're rescuing 500 sex slaves, building 500 homes, feeding 1,000 orphans, and then building 30,000 wells. All those numbers add up to 2030. So it's all that's 2030, more than just a number. And that's kind of our slogan.
Yes, more than just a number.
And then to get people involved. So my big thing was, how do I find good talent? Talent, you just don't hire someone that has great talent. Talent is not just born, you're not born with it. And so how do you find good talent?
You develop it.
Yeah, you do. That's exactly right. So when you're if you're not careful in business, as you start having success, and whether you're having success or not, some things can be very transactional. You know, they're providing a service, I'm paying them. They're, that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to come a way to find where where their true heart was. Just because they're doing a good job for me, it may just be because all they can do right now is pay their bills, and that's just the best job for them.
Right.
But I can't pull the best out of them until I truly know their heart, and you do that based on the fruit.
That's good.
And so fast forward, I said, if I can come up with a way for people to give, it's not a matter of just giving money, whether it's giving services or just sharing what we're doing on Facebook or telling your friends about it. It's not about a quantity or anything. It's about their heart.
Yes.
And what I found is we come with this 2030 and we share it with all of our employees. This is what we do. You can come alongside of us. There's, 3 types of people. You can have nothing to do with it, and that is what it is. 2 is you can play part of it financially, or you can just share the word, whatever it is. And by doing that, it's not a transaction, it's transformational.
That's good.
And they some of them do it in all different forms, but it truly makes a difference.
And you did this at a team meeting. You did this at like a retreat, company retreat.
Yeah, we started off, we did a big company retreat that kind of helped us find our company why, which was that Vision 2030 essentially came from. And then we do a state of the company every 3 months. We do everyone gets together and we do it. Talk about the company, where it's been, where it's going, and updates.
Tell the story.
And that stuff. And
this is the story.
We have it in our newsletter. So we just get the word out there. It's just like anything else. You have to repeat it over and over again to let people know.
Repetition. And they see what they're part of.
That's right.
It's more than just, this is my job.
That's the biggest thing. We do surveys all the time with our people. That's the biggest thing, is they say, we want to know more. We want to know exactly where this money goes. We want to know how they're making an impact. And it keeps it, because I'm involved in it a whole lot more, so I know it, but I always have to make sure I keep that front and center. And
it's so important. Like anything, I think anytime somebody sows into a project or sows in, they write a check, it's very impersonal to write a check. I mean, because it's just $100, bang.
Yeah.
But to show them what that $100 did, especially if you take it, here locally, and what did that $100 produce? If you take it to Belize, what does it produce? Africa, what does it produce? It could produce 1,000 times over. It just really could, especially when God adds Himself to something.
That's right.
Right? The olive oil that just kept on pouring, the flour that never ran out. Right? I mean, with Elisha and the lady there. So I'm saying, like, there's this mindset of when you sow in, God will multiply it. And so how did you guys determine where to start giving as a company? How did you guys figure that out, and what kind of advice would you give on that? Just people listening right now.
Yep, I think there's 2 things that come to mind, and there's a little bit of balance to each one of them, so I'll explain them separately. I think one is, this is just my personal opinion, I'm very big into, if you're going to sow, make sure it's in fertile ground. Now that doesn't mean you need to micromanage everything, but I'm not interested, at least my heart is not interested in giving a bunch of money if I'm paying for an expensive CEO or a big jet or any of those things. And that doesn't mean that some of those companies don't do good things. That's just my personal. So that's for me personally.
Hey, it's our money.
That's right.
We're responsible for. I say our money. We're stewards of the money. We're responsible for it.
That's right. And it's I think it says in the Bible, it bless you, 10, 100, or 1,000 fold. It makes more sense. I want that. If I'm going to do it, let's get the 1,000 fold, not the 10 fold.
Yes, that's awesome.
And that's so I think that's important. So I found a couple of nonprofits that 100% of the money that goes to them goes to the cause. They have a separate corporate sponsor that pays the overhead.
Okay, that's good.
And so that was I have 2 of those that we give to. King's Ransom Foundation is the one that we give most of it to. 100% of that, every dollar you give, $1 goes straight to the need.
Wow.
And that's that's the one that I partnered with early on. Still partnering with them, and most of the stuff goes through them.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You've heard the term "dream with God."
Mm-hmm.
You start dreaming with God.
Yep.
It's like what your heart kind of leaps about. You hear something, you hear a story, and your heart just starts leaping. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, I want to be part of that. Oh, can I be part of that? Yep. And I have many things like that. I just want to be part of what God's doing. I just want to be part of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even know what I would do. I just want to be there.
Right.
It's just so cool. Like, wow, you know, like crusades, just being there for a crusade. Wow, 50,000 people in front of you. Wow. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just inspiring. Like, man, how do people dream with God when it's time to find something, like where they want to start sowing, right? Like, what's a good, I mean, you had mentioned the name of where you sow, but again, there's so many different ways you can find, like, there's so many hands out, honestly. There's some people saying, here, I'll take your money, I'll take your money. So is it important to first kind of settle in your heart and with God, like what he wants you to do specifically versus just, hey, the Ronald McDonald's House, which is a great ministry.
Right.
There's so many of them that are so great. But is there a specific?
Yeah, I think you don't want to let perfection or having everything figured out be the enemy of just getting something done. So what I did is I bought into someone else's dream until I found mine. So what I did, I prayed to God. I said, I can't figure all this stuff out on my own. Of course not.
Just got to start somewhere.
I'm going to start somewhere. And so I sowed in someone else's dream, so to speak, until I got around. So, and then I was going to some seminars, and they talked about a project they were doing in Belize, and I went alongside them, and that's what kind of got it going. Once you got the bug, so to speak, you can't get rid of it.
You don't get rid of it.
And then and the more you give, the more people want. That's just human nature.
Yes, it is.
That's this. But again, it's back to that discernment. And I have this 10%, and it's praying to God. I've got this money. Either there's only two things that can happen. I can only give to a certain amount because the 10% it is, or, which is what I like, is bless me more so I have more to give to some of these other people that are asking. And so again, there's a practical side and I think a spiritual component to it. But I'm big into just I tell my employees, buy into my dream until you figure yours out. But you got to start somewhere.
Yes, that's great. I think that's really good practical. It shows someone where they can start. Right. Get along someone that you respect and you see what they're doing.
Yeah. Judge the fruit.
Judge the fruit. You see that it's fruitful. Yeah. You're like, you know what? I want to sow into that. If you can take part in it, like you said, you went to Belize, you saw it firsthand. You felt the dirt, right? You're like, you know what? I like the way this feels. And I think that's important. And as you serve other people with your resources and your time, you then too may likely receive a gifting or a calling or a dream.
Right.
Right. So finding a project. Next one, funding the project. So we talked about how do you fund a project practically? Is it just literally writing a check and that's it? I mean, what is it?
So I have a couple ways to do that. What I like to do is I'm giving, my company's giving 10%. To various days, we do stuff, right there in our hometown, right there in our state, and then, United States and abroad. So I have a 10% pool. What I like to do is I try to multiply that. So what I do is whether it's my employees that want to give or the community or anyone, and I just tell them, look, if you give $1, I'll match that $1. That's so cool. Now, it motivates them because they know now that dollar is not turning into 60 or 70 cents because of overhead. 100% of that dollar is going to the need, and cool. I'm matching it. So now they're going to say I'm essentially doubling my money, kind of thing. And it builds, it builds camaraderie, it builds synergy and those things. So I think I think that's big in that. So we do matching funds. So I try not to, and I do that with even some local. You'll be surprised. Everybody wants money, and they say, we're doing this great project and we want $1,000. I said, that's great. Why don't you go find $1,000? I'll match it up to $1,000. Now you don't need $1,000. You have $2,000.
You're teaching them to go
do
fish.
That's exactly right. That's right. It's the same thing with our sustainable. Everything that we do in third world countries, it's never just giving them something. It's all sustainable. The thing we're doing in Honduras, we're building a fishing village. Yes, we're building houses. We're giving them boats and showing them how they can take that fish instead of fishing for one day and selling it. If they have a big fish, they have a big turnout that day. They don't know what to do with it. They just rots. Yes. Now they have the freezer. Now they can keep it. And now when the prices are higher, they can sell it. The prices are lower. Keep it in the freezer. That's it. Teaching them business principles.
Well done. There's that's one of the greatest joys that I have found when I travel to Africa. I do a lot of Africa travel in South Africa, Mozambique. Is that just the pure knowledge that we have from business, like just the principles. Oh, they're so they eat them up. They're like, oh, really, 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 yeah. Because a lot of them haven't been taught that. They just weren't taught the critical thinking or problem solving or troubleshooting, getting ahead of something, right? Yeah. And that's just kind of how we're raised that way. It's ingrained in us. You engage with it.
They have to live minute to minute because they literally don't know where the next meal's coming from.
Yes.
I mean, they're in Honduras just a month or so ago, and they're buying these little chips from the stand. I'm thinking, man, that's so much more expensive, But literally, they didn't know if they're going to have the money to be able to buy anything. They can't. That's right. They can't go to curbside and buy a whole week's worth of groceries. They don't have the money. They literally don't have the money. It's literally hand them
daily bread.
That's right.
It's the prayer that Jesus taught us. This is, our daily bread. Yep. And so I think that's the important thing is that we're reminded of, even us, right? And we give thanks before we eat and we say, thank you for this food. Thank you for our daily bread, right? We're giving thanks in that moment. And to your point, we know we have more food in the fridge. Thank God for that. But there's times where we didn't always have food in the fridge, right? Yeah. And so to remember that and to then instill that in everybody that we minister with the resources, like, look, you say, oh, you think, oh, I'm just this American and I'm just so wealthy, or I'm the CEO, I'm just so wealthy. Oh, no. We remember exactly. We remember everything up to the point we're at. And we also know that, you know, what it means not to have. And so we have friends that are in third world nations that literally don't have water. Yeah. They don't have electricity. They don't have vehicles. They've got nothing. And I have everything. Right. And so, you know, I am a little, you know, I don't just want to run the water when I'm brushing my teeth. Right. I shut it off. Well, why? I got plenty of water. Why? Because I remember my friends that don't have water. It's that tempering. It tempers us. Right? Is that a good way to say it? Just so you're more mindful of, yes, you want to stretch every dollar because you know what it means to earn it, right, and how hard it is to earn it. And consistently earn it. Yep. So I think that's a great principle for fertile ground, to find a project, find fertile ground that you want to sow and invest in, how to fund a project. I think the 10% rule, you need 1,000, great. You raise 1,000, I'll match it. I think that's a great idea because it engages those who are asking. Right. Well, now they're engaged, showing that they can put the work in as well, not just sole reliance on a wealthy person or family. Visiting the project for team building, what's that look like? So I know you've taken your teams, done team building projects overseas. Like, what's that like?
Yeah, so there's two components to that. There's team building, or what I call the home team and the away team. The whole team is your family. Yes. And then the away team is our work family. And so, Lisa, why don't you kind of share it? When we've taken our kids to multiple different places, how's that impacted our relationship, our kids' relationship, and then I'll talk a little bit about the away team.
What is that like when you've taken all? Have you taken all the kids overseas? Like all collectively, you do it in part?
In part, we haven't done it all at one time.
Okay, because it's crazy.
I mean, we have some of the grandkids, even, but
which is awesome.
That is.
What was the first trip you guys took as a family to do a mission project?
Our first trip that we took as a family to do mission was in Belize.
Okay.
So as Stuart mentioned before, the first time he went to Belize, I stayed back because our first grandson was being born.
Of course.
And so then when he came home, he's like, we're getting our passports.
We're going.
And we're going.
Yes, we are. He got the bug.
Yes. So then we went, was it the following Christmas?
Summer.
Summer. It was summer, yes. And so we took all the kids that were still at home and we went, started helping build an orphanage, and our kids were excited and ready to go back. And I was kind of at first. Yeah. And then when we left, I was crying on the plane because it was just, I don't know, it's totally different. And
it's very different.
You know, when you have at home and then you go and see the children that don't, it's...
And the smiles on their face.
Yes.
The smiles on their face just because they have guests, they have visitors.
They have visitors, and they appreciate everything.
Everything.
Yes.
I mean, everything. Mm-hmm. Everything is just, the attitude is so different. You know, we think in poverty levels, like just from our perspective of poverty, and we see it around us and we're like, well, you know, like our poor are extremely wealthy compared to the other nation's poor, right?
Exactly.
And that doesn't downplay, you know, depravity here, but it just puts it in perspective when you travel outside of our country. You put it in perspective. Mm-hmm. And so, how did that impact your children that went with you?
Oh, it did a number on them. They were, when they got home, they were, like, you know, we really don't need this, we really don't need that.
Perspective.
Yes, perspective. And they were like, well, the kids that we saw didn't have that. And, you know, so when it came to buying things or thinking that they needed something, it wasn't a big need. So
perspective.
Yeah.
That's what we found. Yeah. Our girls that we've taken all 4 of our girls to Africa multiple times. We've lived in Africa. And that was huge, is the perspective. It's like, no, we don't really need it. Because we can buy it doesn't mean we need it, though, right?
Right.
And so that was your first trip. How many trips have you all taken now?
So we went to Belize, Honduras. That's it, right?
Yeah, we did some stuff in Texas. There's a sex trafficking group that we built some homes and this stuff in there. But overseas, Honduras and Belize are the two.
Those are the two places that you're sewing actively.
She's been,
Yeah.
I went to Africa and did an orphanage over there, but she stayed back with it.
Isn't it wild once you start sewing, it's hard to leave that place.
Yes.
Because once you're there, your relationships are formed.
Yeah, your heart's there. And
your heart's there, everything. And so I've had people say, well, why do you always go to South Africa? So I've been going there for 20 years.
Wow.
Those are my friends. Those are my friends there. And they're always asking, when am I coming back?
Right.
And when we're together, it's awesome.
Yes.
So it's hard to say that I'm just going to leave now and never come back. It's like part of family, and I think that's what's really beautiful about it. And we've seen where they've started and now they're doing very well. And it's just been like that because of the influence and the support and the help, but they're also improving themselves as well. Like it's very, very powerful. Yeah,
and I think there's a spiritual component to it because it says when you do this to the least of these, you're doing it for me. And so when you're doing that, there's a special. I mean, you can have a bond with anybody. I can go to meet somebody here in Corpus and have coffee and have somewhat of a bond.
Yes.
But when you're doing something for the least of these, you're literally doing it for him. And I just think there's a bond there that you just can't compare it to anything else.
You can't. You're tangibly showing. I think this is what's so important, is that to show our heart in what we do. Some people, like business owners for the most part, are so guarded. We're so guarded, right? People are coming at us from all angles. You don't know if they're friend or foe. Like which angle are you coming from? And we deal with such challenges, such hard situations. We've got to be firm. We got to be. I mean, there's just a lot going on, especially in construction, right? And so, but there's that tender side that we have, like for people, just tender for people.
Yes.
And it's like, but then you don't want to get run over. So you got to be like, you're like, so it's just like, so I love when we get to experience like what you guys are describing, these moments where we can just connect with people from our humanity level.
Yes.
But like you said, it's spiritual because the Bible does say that when we care for people's needs and when we show them love and we show them kindness, they are actually experiencing love and kindness from the Father directly, God the Father directly. Right. It's like they're working through us as a vessel. Super powerful. I mean, and that, like you said, sticks with us. Right. It's better to give than it is to receive.
Yes.
And there's part of that repayment is that how we feel about it, right?
That's right.
So what does that look like over the years of your company being involved now for collectively, your company's been on for multiple years now. So what has that done for your culture? And how has that shaped your culture?
Yep. So as Lisa spoke about, from the family standpoint, from the employee standpoint and building a team, it's powerful because when they go and they see that, they're seeing something much outside. It's way outside themselves. It's not like you're in the office doing a drawing or meeting with this client. You're seeing something, you connect on a much different level.
Right.
Once you have 50-some employees, you don't have those relationships the same as you did whenever there's only 3 or 4 of you.
That's right.
And so you're seeing them outside of the work environment. And the biggest thing that I think happens when you're doing that, they're building team, it's building synergy, all those things. But the thing is, when they come back, they understand the Vision 2030 on a whole nother level. They've actually seen it and lived it and breathed it. And then when you have to have the difficult conversations, which you don't grow in the good times, you go in the difficult times.
That's right.
So when you're having those difficult conversations and having it, whether it's work performance, we all go through our issues, whether it's work performance or just as a company, last year was a rough year with interest rates and everything.
Yes.
We had to have some difficult conversations.
Yes.
Those conversations are much easier to have whenever you have a clean heart, but then they know your heart and you develop or you connect on a much different level, and you can't put a price tag on that because that connection is it's important.
Yeah, because it impacts generations. Right. Mm-hmm. Our relationships, if we really think about it, from the family unit, it's generational. We already know it's generational, right? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? Well, immediately I think about my grandparents,
right,
and my great grandparents, and then my parents, right? We just go down the line, and I think about my wife and I think about our children, and I think about our grandchildren. So we're generational right there. And it's always about, grandpa was a great guy and here's why. Or grandma, we all thought she was kind of just, really firm and mean. And
right.
I mean, right? Because all these interactions impact us personally, and then they impact how we parent and or relate to our family, right? It's no different in the workplace.
Yep.
It was no different in the workplace. I had an excellent, awesome mentor who discipled me, and he apprenticed me and he discipled me at the same time. And that's why I'm here today, in the place that I'm at today. And that was just a friend from church that I needed work We were poor. We were broke was a joke. I haven't used that term, but I like that. We were broke was a joke. And I was like, and I really want to work with my hands. And I was like, Bob, will you hire me? Please, just will you hire me? I want to get out of the insurance world. I'm not making any money there. It takes too long to make you sell a policy. It takes 12 months to earn the money from the policy, the commission. I'm like, no, I can't do it. And he's like, yeah, I'll teach you. And from there, he just poured into me spiritually and the trade. Right. And that's what got me to this point, right? And I had my business understanding and everything else, but I needed someone just to really, and he was hard on me. He was really hard on me, but I knew it was to make me better. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's what's great to the point you're saying is that you can have those talks because you've formulated that. Now you've got that environment. Right? Because you took the time. You created that environment for you to have those talks that will impact them for themselves, but also future generations. Yep. Right. Good and positive, good and negative.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been powerful. It's seen from the beginning, 10 or 12 years ago, really starting with a dream, not having any idea how it could happen, finding some of these nonprofits to sow into, taking my family first, and then getting my business along, and just seeing all the relationships that formed. I mean, there's some people that haven't worked with me in 5 or 6, 7 years, and they still connect with me. How's it going in Belize, or I'm so excited to see what you're doing in Honduras, or just whatever thing. So you're building long-term relationships that are literally outside the transactional, employee-employer relationship, which is, yes, I mean, it can be empty at the end of the day.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. I'm just thinking about what you're working on now. Can you share a little bit of what you guys are working on now?
Yeah, right now our current project, we're me and a buddy of mine that I met at those seminars years ago.
Networking, the power of networking.
Yes, exactly right.
It's so important.
Right. A big piece of property came up for sale in Matagorda County, and our home office, Bay City, that's Matagorda County. It's 800 acres, literally on the water, one of the last big tracts of land on the water in the whole Texas coast. We're able to buy that. Using the skills that we learned through business and the seminars and different things, put that together. But it's in Matagorda. We're building it's called Beachside, but we're selling lots to people coming from all over Texas, buying lots. And so our goal was to all those people that are coming alongside. I mean, there's 30 or so tour guides that come down and help us sell land. We got a huge team that comes, but then we're also selling lots to some pretty affluent people, of course, all over Texas. And so our goal is, man, let's take that and let's build some synergy. So we're building Beachside in Matagorda County, but now we're doing a Matagorda village in Honduras at a fishing community on the water. So there's a whole lot of similarities. So when these affluent people are buying a 6-figure lot in our hometown, actually 10% of the proceeds literally goes to help someone that's really in need in Honduras at Matagorda Village. So
I love it.
It's exciting. We've got people all over the country rallying with us, and getting back to the whole matching principle. If our tour guides want to give something, we match it, or different things. So
I think that's awesome.
It builds tons of synergy, and it's just good for the community, because the local community, whether it's here in Texas or anywhere in the United States, if you're not careful, they just see that you're giving something in a foreign country, like, why are you doing this? Why don't you give it right here locally, whatever? Yes. And you can't tell them, hey, I just have a heart for the third world countries, not you, not the local.
Of course.
But when you get them involved, they see it. They catch the bug. Maybe not to the same extent. That's right. But if nothing else, they understand your heart and know why you're doing it. And we're helping the community. We don't just give to Honduras, and we're doing stuff right there locally in our community. We gave $100,000, 50 of it to a pregnancy center. They needed it's such a cool story. They have the pregnancy center in our hometown. They wanted to get an ultrasound machine, because what happens is, if they go to one of the other planned pregnancy, they essentially can talk them into getting an abortion.
That's correct.
Their thing is, if I say there's a proven number, if a mother that's pregnant sees the ultrasound,
they can see the heartbeat, they can see the image of that little baby.
The percent, the
bang, that's my baby now. Yes, that's your baby.
The percent of them having an abortion goes down, way down. Yeah. So they wanted to buy the machine. Well, that's a perfect. I didn't really have a heart for that before, but I found out about it. I'm like, heck yeah,
let's do it. We're going to sow there. Yeah.
So we wrote a check for $50,000 so they could buy the ultrasound machine. They're able to hire a nurse full time.
Lives are being saved right there.
And that's when I say we wrote a check. Yes, I got to sign the check, but most of that was
that's the team.
It was the whole team.
It's everybody participating.
Everyone is part of it. Lisa being home supporting me, our employees, our team at Beachside, everyone is playing a huge part in that. And they're all getting to reap the benefits as well.
My goodness, man. So,
good stuff.
Do you see a man who excels in his work? Mm-hmm. He will stand before no unknown men. He will stand before kings and princes. And I'm just a scripture verse that Megan shared with me years ago. And it's just it's what I'm seeing with you guys. It's just so powerful. And it's beautiful too. There's such vision and purpose behind what we do if we really dream with God. Right. And we see that it's bigger than just caring for our own needs. God says he'll care for our needs. Right. He'll care for our needs, but he asks us to care for others' needs. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that right now. He wants us to care. He says, I'll care for you better than the birds of the air and the lilies of the field. I'll care for you. But then he invites us to care for others. Like, isn't that wild? And if we care for others, he rewards us for caring for others when we do it in his name. And so you guys are reaping the fruit of doing that. And I think that is just so awesome. And it doesn't stop.
Right.
You guys are still young.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
There's always the next project, the next, even this Honduras thing. We kind of talked about it, and I've been telling Lisa, baby, what do you really want? Because there's nothing that's more powerful, in my opinion, that makes a man work more than whenever his wife, he's supporting him, but it's something that she believes in.
Yes.
So I kept, and you know, if we had to compare, I'm a little bit more open about communication this year. She's a little bit harder to things to come out. So we'll have these talks. We'll have these talks.
But the brain's going. It's brain's going.
Talks, and I said, baby, what do you want? You don't understand. If you'll just tell me what you want, I will move
whatever it takes.
I'll move the heavens and the earth to get figured out. And so maybe share with them with the Honduras and with your mom and the wanting the clinic. Because that's kind of what it developed that dream in me and made me go so explain to that conversation we had.
I love that.
Okay.
I see so much synergy between Megan and I and you guys. I love it.
So going to Belize and then going to Honduras for the first time. And then you went to Honduras before me?
I went first, yeah.
Yes. And he comes back and he tells me, you took the girls. He took the two youngest girls and they went and they came back. And then they were telling me all about, and he's like, I want to go back and we're going to build this and that. So I'm thinking, kids should have an education of some kind.
Yes, they need to, yeah.
And of course, and also kids should be taken care of, when they need medicine, they're sick.
Yes.
Their moms, I think they should be also taken care of. So I'm like, we could build a school or a medical clinic.
Yes.
My mom always had a dream of being a nurse, so
I love
it's like
that.
to take care of people. So
yes,
and I've always wanted. Going back to thinking when I was younger, I was like, if I ever have a lot of money, I'm going to help kids.
Amen. I love that.
It's always been in me to help children for some reason, but now that I'm really able to do it, it's nice. I mean,
it feels great.
Yeah,
the rewards are endless. It's so great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this village and to be a part of it and go and be hands-on in all of it. So
yeah, it's part of it.
We're just going to build houses, and then when she told me that, I was like, oh, game on. Yeah, now we're going to do a village. We're not just going to do a house.
This is why I think it's so important that husbands and wives really need to dream together. Dream together. Because your wife is going to add something to what you're thinking and seeing, and you're like, oh, that's important to you. That's important to me. It's so beautiful. Yeah. It really is. And if it's God's will, it's God's bill.
That's right.
If God wants it to happen, He'll fund it. He'll fund it.
Right.
And He'll just keep working through us. As we wrap up, how can people get involved? How can people learn more about what you're doing? And obviously doing business with you. I've done business with you guys for a long time. I think you guys are doing great. But how can people connect with you maybe there, but then also with the mission work that you guys are doing?
Yeah, we have a page, ourvision2030.com.
Okay.
And that's the best. That kind of tells what we're doing in Honduras right now. And then we have tons of links on our lyngroup.com website. So at Lynn Group, engineering is our main bread and butter. We do some development, have a steel building company, have some other, but it's all on that. But lyngroup.com is the big page. And then Our Vision 2030 is where our Honduras thing is. So anybody that wants to do anything with that, we're taking trips a couple of times a year, and would love to share that experience with other people.
Yes.
And it's just something that, again, if you're depending where you're at, if you're a small business, you only have 2 or 3 employees, or maybe it's just a mom and pop. I mean, just go and catch the bug, so to speak.
Yes.
And worst case is you're sowing into something, you're going to reap it.
Yes.
But best case is you take that, and then before you know it, you're doing your own Honduras and Africa or South Africa, Mozambique or Mexico or the Caribbean, wherever.
You're not limited.
That's right.
You're not limited.
That's right. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be your own vision in the beginning. buy into someone else's, and you get blessed by that because it's not yours. You're actually doing something for someone else, and there's another level of blessing. I feel that you get in there.
That's right. This is awesome. I think we could talk and talk on this. I'd love to have you come back at some point as well and maybe teach on. We can do some teaching together that our audience would love to hear and to help them grow in their own business and practical advice as well. So if you're open to that, I'd appreciate that. Whew. That was fun. That was awesome. I love that. So, hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, if you would like, subscribe, and ring the bell. The coolest thing is if you would comment below as well. If you got a comment for Lisa and Stuart, please just write it in there. We'll do our best to respond back. We're going to include the socials as well and the links for their website so you can see what they're doing, catch the vision, as Stuart says, catch the bug, that good bug, and dream with God. Dream with God. This is what you guys can do. Remember, he was broke as a joke, and he is not anymore. So we thank you for that sharing your story with us. Guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, and God bless you.